Have you ever wanted to start your own business but don't know where to start? Are you like, bruh, it's freaking pandemic. It's 2020. 40 million people don't have jobs. What do you mean start my own business? Well, seriously, you should consider it. Starting your own business now has never been a better time. As we've said on this show over and over again, e-commerce and direct sales and direct marketing and affiliate programs are killing it in 2020. Today's guest is going to show us how we can start our own business. Well, he's got the chops. He's got the background. He's a serial entrepreneur who's done a lot of successful operations and businesses. He's going to tell us why now is the time to start your business. All that and more coming up next. And this is To The Point. Awesome. How are you guys doing today? Hopefully you're doing good and hopefully you're ready for a great show. Yes, I know the lead in, you're like, dude, why would I even start a business in 2020? Are you crazy? Well, let me tell you about businesses that are killing it. Direct sales businesses, killing it. That's right, the apparel industry and at-home ordering and direct sales, direct marketing are crushing it right now. These aren't shady things. These are businesses that are absolutely going. Like the shirt and brand you always see me wearing on the show. I'm proud to rep Zaya, an amazing company that has seen growth since the pandemic started, and they're not alone. So many of these direct marketing, direct sales companies are absolutely crushing it. Home gyms, as we remember, as we went into November of 2019, which seems like a century ago, but it's just a few short months ago, about 7 or 8 months ago now, well, 9 months ago, which isn't that long ago if you put it into perspective. 9 months ago, Peloton was viciously attacked for their ad. Now, Peloton is one of the biggest fitness brands on the planet. Fitness and home gyms are so big right now, even brands like Lululemon are buying fitness companies. They recently acquired Mirror, which is a competitor of so many of these systems, and we're all familiar with Beachbody and all these others. They're all crushing it. So I felt that we need to put an amazing entrepreneur in the fitness world and other businesses on our show to talk about why now is the time to start a business. It is. It's the time. If you're one of these unfortunate folks, over 40 million of us, without a job to go back to, you've got to be able to supplement your income and help your family. We're here at To The Point. We want to help you, give you all the tools in the tool bag that we could do it. So we bring you amazing folks like Michael Penny in the 5-paragraph order, George Bryant, the Lighthouse, giving away all of those amazing things. Everybody who comes on our show provides value to you folks, and we want to provide that value too when it comes to the business world. So our guest today is a serial entrepreneur. He's amazing. He's just built an amazing brand for himself. Our guest today is none other than Peter Taunton. And Peter has just built a fabulous brand. He's a serial entrepreneur, and he built the vision of Snap Fitness. So we're going to talk a little bit about the fitness world again, a lot like Bedros Koulikan, a lot like any of our other guests that we've had on, Edward Jakowski. We're going to talk about building a fitness brand, but not just building that brand, building brands as a whole, and why now is the time. So let's get to the point with today's guest, Peter Taunton. Welcome to the show, Peter. How are you doing today?
Eric, I'm great. Thanks for having me, man. How you doing?
I am doing great. Another great day. I woke up alive, got a fresh 24 on the clock, as we always like to say. My whole family started saying that. I started saying it a few years ago, and now everybody's kind of jumped on. I'm like, we got a fresh 24, and we woke up alive. And one of my good friends, Jazz Booth, an amazing veteran, she always said, it's a good day when you don't die. So.
All right, now I love that. A fresh 24. I like it.
It goes good. I mean, it's this crazy world we live in, so it's good that you're on the show today. Because 2020, like I've been saying, and I almost thought I was kidding when I said it feels like we're constantly in March. It feels like March never really ended, and here we are moving on almost into fall. It feels like we're still in March. Nothing's really changed, except the business world, to me, has changed greatly. To a lot of people, you're either very successful or you're looking on the outside looking in. Before you came on, I was telling folks about how e-commerce and direct sales are absolutely crushing it during a pandemic. And everybody's saying how bad everything is, but I've seen a lot of businesses hit killer numbers during the pandemic, some of their best sales ever. And I was picking on a few brands in a positive way, like a brand called Zaya out of Utah. It's an apparel brand. And then when we were talking about, and I'm sure you remember because you have a fitness background, remember in November when everybody wanted to pick on Peloton?
No, right.
Right? Who's laughing now?
Yeah, no, exactly. Those guys, they've had a long road, and they fought hard for where they are, so God bless them, right?
Yeah. I mean, did you ever think that you would see in 2020, number one, Peloton become like the number one piece of equipment to have in your house? And then second, did you ever think you would see Lululemon acquire Mirror, right? Everybody made fun of Mirror, and they went and grabbed it. So people are seeing, I mean, obviously you're not going to go to a gym right now. A lot of people, I'd love your thoughts on going to a gym and then talking business, but let's talk about that. Do you see people returning to a gym as a whole with all the threats of, I mean, the gross part of it is you think about COVID-19, but then I kind of cringe when I think about, you're right, when you stand in front of the weights and you're doing, you know, different movements with the weights, you're blowing air out. Like, you have to breathe. If you're not breathing while you're lifting, you're wrong, folks, at home. If you're lifting without breathing, you're wrong. But, I mean, do you think people actually go back to a gym? Do you think we'll return to a gym as normal?
Absolutely. And I'm with you. Just going back to what you earlier said, 2020, if we could all get a do-over, we'd take it, right? It's no one could see it coming. And you're exactly right. A lot of the companies have adopted and adapted and evolved. Fitness being one of them. And our brand today, so the different brands that I own, and there are several of them, we're at about 80% of where we were pre-COVID in terms of traffic in our clubs. But our product's a little bit different. Now, to me, in my opinion, when some of these products that are group fitness, functional training, where you're sitting, 4 feet from one another, running on a treadmill, panting, digging, and then you go from there, almost, like a Barry's or Orange Theory, some of these boot camp type classes, they're going to have to evolve differently. They're going to have to do social distancing. They have a lot of people in a small space, so their product is going to be different. And it's very hard to design a product like that when you can operate at 50% capacity. So they've got to figure it out. But people are, by all means, people are not going to stay at home and exercise forever because they're going to get bored with it. Peloton is great because there's a social aspect of it. There's a community, a tribe aspect of it, virtual. So it can be kind of competitive that way, but at the end of the day, unless you're a serious biker, that's not going to be your jam long term. It's not going to be. And you can only do that jailhouse workout for so long. Like I did it when I was living at my place in Miami. All the gyms were closed. I was grabbing a chair, doing dips, doing push-ups. It was like a jailhouse workout, right? But now I'm up at my lake home and I have a gym here, so all is good. And the world has started to open up a little bit. But it is going to come back, Eric. It will.
Well, that's good, because that's one of my biggest concerns is going to the gym. I'm an avid swimmer. As much as I like getting on, of course, sitting on a bike for hours. I like the music. I'm a music fiend, so kind of feed my craziness there. I like running, too. I'm one of those psychopaths that actually likes running. So, again, but I miss the gym. I really miss swimming. Recently, we traveled, and I was able to get in a lap pool, which was like, it was such an amazing workout. But I don't want to sit here. I'm sure folks are like, we didn't tune in to hear about Eric's workout. So we'll move on. So let's talk about how you got started. I always love talking to successful entrepreneurs because you guys just inspire the crap out of me. I'm the person who will pick up a book when it comes and about entrepreneurship, and I love talking to entrepreneurs who made it, and I love hearing how you got started. So that's my first one.
Yeah, right on. So had you met me 33 years ago, no joke, I'd have been giving you a towel and a locker key. So that's where I started in a gym. Now at the time I was playing professional racquetball, and my side hustle was I worked at a gym, right? And so I had an opportunity to turn around a failing health club in my hometown, and they paid me $16,000 a year, but they said, look, if you can turn this failing club around, we'll let you buy us out with the profits. That was the motivation. That was the incentive that I needed. Now, it took me about 7 years to acquire enough equity in that business. I took a club from losing $200,000 a year to making 250. That's another narrative in itself. But in 7 years, I was able to turn the club around and acquire at least 51% equity in the business. At that time, I went to my local banker, who was a member of my club. I recapped the loan, giving myself a little breathing room, remodeled the club, and did that for 20 years. 20 years, I built 7 clubs, and then decided to sell it. At the time, I was married. I had 3 kids, and I wanted to try something else. And think about it, Eric. I'd been doing the health club hustle for 20 years, and I said, and I sold my 7 clubs. When all the dust settled, I think I had about $3 million in the bank. And I said, I just want to try something else. I want to see what else is out there. And about 6 months later, one of my former employees, who was the kind of guy that would dive on a hand grenade for you if it came in the room. So the kind of guy that when he wants a favor from a man, you're going to bend over backwards to try to do it for him. He asked me if I would consider building a club for him. And that was the catalyst for me thinking about, all right, if I built him a club, what would I do? I eliminated swimming pools. I eliminated racquetball courts, child care services, aerobic studios, and I built this club that was about 4,000 to 5,000 square feet. It had free weights, it had selectorized equipment, it had lots of cardio. So I had a lot of diversity in those 3 segments. But by having it 4,000 to 5,000 square feet, I was able to position these clubs near where people lived. I was in the neighborhood strip center. You passed me on your way to work, on your way home from work. They were open 24 hours a day. I did something different at the time. I said, look, no contract. So my point of difference when I wanted to thin myself from the herd, I went to the market and said, look, no contract. I'm going to earn your business, earn your trust every month. And if I fail, if I don't deliver on my promise, it's really simple. You just cancel your membership. So I put all the burden on me. And I said, come give me a try, right? Well, it resonated with the people. I gave it to them straight. They liked my position. They liked my cowboy attitude, saying, look, you know what? I'm going to earn it. I'm not going to shackle you to a 12-month contract. That's not how I'm going to retain you as a member. I'm going to earn your business, and you're going to want to stay. Well, the reality of it is, when you put a club close to where someone lives, when you pass me on your way to work, on your way home from work, when that happens, you use it more. When you use it more, you don't quit. So that's my elevator speech in a couple of minutes of how I did it.
I love it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
great you talk about that, because it's true. I mean, if you think about going to a gym, it's hard when there's not one right by you. You come up with excuses not to go to it. I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, we belong to a club, but it's where we want to go. I mean, where we live, it gets warm occasionally. I mean, we live in the Pacific Northwest, so people are like, hey, really warm, Eric? It does. For 3 months out of the year, dang it, it's warm here, okay? It gets. We turn the air conditioner on, then the rain comes, and then we don't have to worry about it. But you're like, dude, I live in Minnesota. It snows. Be quiet. We have blizzards. You're like, we win. But let's talk about, and one thing I do like when I was doing some research on you was I loved a quote that came from a belief of your father's, I believe, where your dad passed advice to you where he said, don't wait for business or success to fall in your lap. You need to put yourself out there and go get it. I like that. I mean, the military guy in me loves it. My belief system is, you either are disciplined or you're distracted, right? And that's the only way in business. So many people get distracted. They use excuses. So many people have used COVID-19 as a reason why their success has hampered them, especially entrepreneurs. And you're another person, and that leads us to our next question when we're talking about COVID, is you own Snap Fitness. And it's become a worldwide phenomenon. And as a fitness expert, how would you, or as a fitness entrepreneur, you're a fitness expert automatically, but as a fitness entrepreneur, how would you say that your business and other gyms have been affected by this pandemic? When we're talking about gyms, when we're talking about fitness in the health industry, obviously we talked about, the big dogs in the room, like, Peloton, right? Scumbagged in November, but looks like everybody's favorite darling today.
Yeah.
But the state of the fitness industry, we all like being in shape. There wouldn't be all these things. Nike would, trust me, I live 5 minutes from world headquarters of the company. They're not hurting. Yeah. They're doing pretty darn well. Fitness is still out. People are still running. What was the number one phenomenon with COVID started? You saw more people walking than you ever saw in your life. I've never seen so many people on the street. Yeah. So how do you think, how has this affected your brand, and how has it affected other brands around you that you're aware of?
Well, I think just from your interpretation of it, Eric, you saw more people walking, and that's what people need to understand. The Wall Street Journal did a story about 5 years ago on exercise. If you'd done that story 10 years ago, when people started to trim their budgets, their gym membership was one of the first things to get whacked. That's not the case anymore. People are living healthier lifestyles. They're eating better and they're moving their feet. That is never going to change. That's here to stay. Now, when they closed the gyms, what did people do? They went outside, just like you saw. In our case, we just went through this. We knew as soon as the government forced us to lock down, we had 6,000 locations around the world closed. So overnight, 28 countries, 6,000 clubs closed. And so we had to react and say, what is it going to be post-COVID? What is our game plan to market? Well, it started with, we need to be very intentional with what we do with our cleaning. So we need to be very visible. So, the social distancing is one thing, but that's why our clubs, have they suffered some? Absolutely. But our clubs, they're open 24 hours a day. It's very uncommon to walk into a Snap Fitness gym at a given time and see more than 20 people in the gym working out. Because these are people, 90% of our members live within a mile or two of our club. So they're coming home, and post-COVID now, people get a little bit more selective. Now, the PPP, there's still a lot of people working from home, so they can go in any time of the day. We're seeing more people come in during those typical slow times from 1 to 4. Those are busier now because people are feathering themselves in at time that are not peak hours. So you're seeing that, but nevertheless, your staff has got to be really intentional with the cleaning because, the customer's perspective or opinion is your reality. So you've got to be highly visible. You got to be convincing that you are doing everything you can to provide a safe environment for them.
I love it. So let me ask you this one, and this is kind of tongue in cheek. How do you grade other businesses as general, people taking COVID-19 serious to reopen? I can tell you, I look at a brand, and I just flew with them, and I'm very loyal to them, Delta Airlines. Delta, to me, leads the way when it comes to a very stricken industry, being the travel industry. They really want to go out of their way. Like my wife said, it's the cleanest we've ever been on an aircraft. I mean, when you sit down and you see how clean everything is, and I mean, it stinks. I mean, it's not the greatest thing in the world where you only get water. That's not great. I mean, my son will tell you because he's 13 and soda runs his life as much as we don't want him to drink it. I'm not going to tell him not to when he's flying. It's, part of flying. It's like me telling me not to drink wine on an aircraft. It just happens. Right. But I mean, how would you say people in general are responding? We see a lot of people either fighting it and going, we're just not going to open, or like gyms. It's important. People need to work out. They're going to do it. And you're right. Prison workouts are great for a time. I mean, I could do the Marine Corps Daily 7 like anybody else. But, I mean, I'm lucky we have a full gym here. Shout out to companies that have helped us with this stuff, being able to purchase and put a gym in here, and we do it strictly because our schedules are wonky and we can't always go to a gym and we don't want those excuses. But how do you grade some of these other businesses that have just flat given up?
Well, you know what, Eric? I think that the hard part is there's so much mixed information out there, and you don't know how much of it is politically motivated today. You don't know what the truth is anymore. I mean, I'll be honest with you. For me personally, I try to keep my digits out of my mouth, my nose, my eyes, my ears, right? So they do that. I don't know that you can catch COVID by being in the same room and breathing the same air as someone else. I don't know. I don't know where it lies. Well, I know that it's highly contagious. I know it's not what we thought it was early on when the government shut everything down. The first 30 days, hey, we didn't know what the hell. We didn't know if this was Armageddon or what was going on. But very quickly, people started following the science. And the analytics didn't lie. There may be a lot of people that are contracting COVID, but the reality of it is you got less than 1% chance of dying, and you got almost no chance of dying if you are under like 75 years old. So that's here nor there. My heart goes out to everyone that's lost a loved one, but there's people that die every day from the flu, from heart disease, diabetes. I mean, there's a litany of things. So I don't know where to draw the line. And, you talk about Delta. Yeah. Coincidentally, I was flying from Delta yesterday, coming back from Boston. I had my mask on. Yeah. I swear to God, I had my mask. I put it right below my nose, right? I'll be damned if the flight attendant came by about 4 times, say, hey, you got to put that over your nose. Now I'm in my seat. There's no one next to me, one person in front of me and no one behind me, right? Yeah. I said, me, I'm stubborn. Shit, I just was not going to sit there with my hand over my nose for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So when I got off the plane, I'll be damned if they didn't have someone waiting for me,
Yeah.
right? They gave me a little hand slap.
Of course.
They gave me a little hand slap. They said, Peter, we appreciate you being a diamond traveler with us,
Yep.
but you have to wear that mask. And I said, I had it on. I had it over my mouth.
Yeah.
The only time I took it off was when I was eating a protein bar. So, I got my hand slapped a little bit. So they're not just warning. They're paying attention, and they actually gave me a little lecture when I got off the plane.
Yeah.
Kind of embarrassing, actually, because you think at my age I could man up and, but
They did that to my son. He got lectured. We flew just Sunday. We flew back. We flew internationally for work down to Mexico. Had a great experience, but I could tell you 14 hours going there because of the way the flights were panned out and we booking it was weird. I could tell you 14 hours in one of those things. I could see why some people lose their mind. I was losing it, and I actually got my hand slapped because I'm like you. I'm like, because they have that rule, if you're drinking or eating something, you could take it off. And I'm like finding like snack bars, sipping water, like drinking that small bottle, like, and they walked by and he looked over at me and he's like, Mr. Mitchell. I'm like, oh. Then I was sitting, my wife would laugh because literally I sit against the window and I'm like, literally I have my finger through one strap and I have the mask off. So when they walk, I see them. I'm like 5 years old I'm like a child with it. I'm like,
right. Yeah. Right.
They can't look. I'm like, it sucks. I mean, I don't like it. I understand why. I've interviewed doctors. They've told me it's not for my protection. It's for everyone else's. It's just a layer of protection. Whatever. I'll play whatever. It gets me to my destination, and I didn't have to wear a mask when I got to it. So
yeah, that's right. I mean, we got to do it, and occasionally we're going to blow it and lose our cool and break the rules a little bit. That's kind of it's kind of what we do sometimes.
So let's not talk about politics or COVID as much as I don't like talking about either one. I think those are topics that just make that's all we talk about. But let's talk about, so you're a serial entrepreneur. You've acquired a number of amazing businesses. But I always love to ask this question to you guys who own multiples. What has been one of your most memorable projects or businesses that you've been part of?
Easy. That's an easy one. I own a 5-star lodge in the Serengeti, and that is a trip, right? And I got it in a roundabout way, and that's kind of what happens, when you've been blessed with winning, right? Financially winning, there's never a shortage of deals that come your way. And this was a deal where a friend of mine, and those are always the trickier ones. A friend of mine came and he said, Peter, we're want to build this lodge in Africa, blah, blah, blah. And he's a guy that I trusted. I said, look, no problem. It was a couple $100,000. I was going to be 1/5 owner, no big deal. Well, make a long story short, he and I, we had to put up some money to make some improvements and whatnot to it. So $1.5 million each later, we're into this thing and we're 50-50 partners. There's no more partners. It's he and I. And we converted it from a 3-star lodge to 5-star, which was a necessity. Putting in an infinity pool, overlooks the Serengeti. It sits on 30,000 acres in this concession area. But we made it so lush that I literally have elephants, lions that come up to my lodge and drink out of my swimming pool, right? So it's a slice of heaven, and it's like nothing you've ever seen. And I don't know if you've ever been on a safari before, but that is unbridled nature in its just beauty. There's nothing like it. You'll never go to a zoo again.
Awesome. I love it. I'm an avid diver, and I love anything like that. So safaris would sound amazing.
Yes.
I know my closest is Disney, so
yeah.
I don't think that counts. Somebody's like, no, Eric, that does not count.
That doesn't count, Eric. Sorry.
Damn it, I'm trying, damn it.
Yeah.
But hey, we do scuba over some of the most beautiful coral reef in Mexico. So
well, you know what? You have my info. If you want a safari of a lifetime, I've got your hookup. No worries.
Oh, sweet. Don't tell my wife that. My wife loves traveling. She'll wear a mask forever as long as she doesn't have to sit here. That's usually what she tells me.
You think Mexico was long? You fly to Tanzania sometime, you'll see it.
Well, I mean, I've flown across the world. I've also gone by boat to places across the world that.
Oh my gosh!
Bad tourist destination nobody wants to go to. They're heavily armed and they shoot at you. But it's true. So let's talk about businesses in general. There's a lot of folks that watch our show that are small business owners. What advice are you giving, or would you give small business owners today? 2020 has really been a challenge to a lot of business owners. I can't speak for myself, and I'm making this perfectly clear anytime I say this. We're having a great year. We actually, blessing of being in the media is they always need people to talk, and there's never a shortfall of it. But I know other folks are impacted, folks in retail, especially the restaurant industry. Obviously, health and fitness, the movie industry is devastated. We just saw Mulan is actually being released by Disney streaming for $30 a movie. Here's a movie that they spent record amount to produce, but Disney is showing a record $4 billion in losses. When you only have a few of your parks open, your movies aren't coming out in the box office, obviously, and people aren't going to the movies. So what's your advice to these small business owners out here that are still trying to make it? I don't know if you saw, I'm sure you did, you're a successful guy, but Yelp came out, 60% of businesses in Yelp are closed permanently. Scary numbers. So what's your advice to these business owners still hanging in there?
Well, it's tough, and we still don't know the full wrath of what's going to go on because there's so many people out there that are still not back to work because they've been benefiting from the PPP program. I've got friends that are making more staying home than they were going to work. That's got to change. So you put people to work. Once they go back to work, now the business has got to survive on its own. So, and like you mentioned it earlier, that the hospitality space, the restaurant hospitality space, they're just getting decimated. So my advice to people is, look, pay attention to what's going on out there. If you're in that space and you're trying to solicit the consumer dollar, being a consumer-facing operation, be very careful what you're doing. And it's a different world out there. Landlords today are scared to death. They're scared to death. Shopping malls, they don't know what the hell they're going to do. These businesses close. They file for bankruptcy. So everybody's got to pitch in. The trickle down on this is there's nothing there's nothing safe. Going to the landlord and getting unbelievably cheap rent, but then being realistic, telling the landlord that you're willing to do percentage rent with them, that if you open this business and it works, and they're generating the revenue and they're generating profits, that you'll share those profits with the landlord. They call it percentage rent. So you got to think outside the box. In the past, historically, landlords didn't want anything to do with that, but now they're getting very, very creative. When I see people coming to me with business plans, what I see a lot of is young entrepreneurs. They haven't thought their plan all the way through. In many cases, they're completely undercapitalized. And then the last piece of being an entrepreneur is, what is your exit strategy? I talk about this all the time. They build a business, and the fact of the matter is they are the business. They don't have anything that's sellable. When they leave the business evaporates. So I teach them how to create a business that's scalable and that they can actually step away from and either make a decision to sell it, and what that multiple looks like, or hold it but be able to stay at it from an arm's length and still reap the benefits of it. What does that look like for them? So that's kind of where I'm at.
I love that, because I think that's a key. We have a lot of folks doing that, and one of our shows we always do is on Monday. We do Military Monday here. Obviously, I'm a vet, so it's important to me to get vets on, and we talk about building businesses. We talk about vet transition. We talk about what that looks like. And we've had to expand it to cover everybody because people are wanting to build a business. But the key thing I take away, and again, this is why we put experts like you on our show, is to be like, your plan has to be set. You can't just wing it. I hear this impression, build it as we go down the runway. That doesn't work with a business. It does when you kind of have an idea and you're doing it, but you've already been successful. I mean, I have a whole bunch of those kind of projects going on in my head that I'm like, let me see how the wheels spin on it as it goes, but it comes from, at least I have something to fall back on. So I can run crazy ideas. We're speaking on a crazy idea called To The Point, because this idea came up because of COVID-19. It actually came from the mind of a beautiful, almost 16-year-old who's my daughter, who came to me and said, Dad, you should put a show on that teaches people and educates and goes deeper than what the news does. I said, okay, let me try the challenge. I said, I'll give it 30 days. And here we are over 100 days later, and it's a machine, and I'm addicted to it. It's fun. It's
Now you got it. And getting to your point, Eric, about business, you can't sit around, and I get this all the time when I'm consulting, and it doesn't matter, young or old, they come to me and they say, look, I've got this business plan, and I look at the plan, and literally 30 minutes into dissecting the plan, it's myself and whatever their team is, and it feels like you're just spitballing ideas. And I said, guys, you're too loose. You're too loose. And And a lot of them say the same thing. Oh, we'll do that. We'll do that in the process as we go. And I go, no, it's one thing. If you have a business that's been around and it's sustained the hardships, and you need to pivot, a lot of times you can pivot. You can fix the plane when it's in the air. Mm. In that scenario where you've got cash flow and you have to pivot, it happens every day. Yep. But doing a startup and then trying to pivot, it costs you a lot of money. It costs you time to market, and that's what we talk about. Yep. You're not capitalized. If anything changed, if there's a twist or a turn, and you don't have dry powder, you're dead.
Amen. And that's so true. So many people, they just think that they can. I mean, I come from the Silicon Valley. So watching and being and doing it successful and living, I'll never forget my first day. Our VP of sales, he was the first ever sales hire at LinkedIn. I remember this to a T. He was our VP of sales, and he had this motto that he taught me day one. He's like, I want you to remember the most important thing as you run our marketing and media team. I said, okay, what is it? He goes, 90%. And I said, what the hell's 90%? He goes, 90% of all startups fail. You need to know that. You're at a startup right now, and almost everybody you're going to talk to, they may not be there. And I didn't believe him. I was like, what are you talking about? I was naive. I was like, what are you talking about, dude? You're crazy. But then people would call me, and I'm going to age myself here, because you remember Groupon. When Groupon was huge, people would come to the company I was at, and they're like, we're the next Groupon. Oh, and we would get like 20 of those. And now I laugh now because you see we're the next Uber, the next Airbnb. Yeah. And those businesses are all gone. And I go look for them, and I'm like, wow, some survive very well or they get acquired. But you're right, you can't have a business plan that's willy-nilly, because you need to be prepared for when it's going to rain. And we've all had businesses that are there. I have drained our bank account to, thank goodness a deal came in. It kept the company going. I mean, we've all been there, right? And yeah. I think, and I like to talk to you about this because you probably know the word failure probably better than most of us. Failure is key to success. I hear this all the time, and I believe it because trust me, like I tell people, I've been punched down to one knee and thought I was not going to get back up. But because I'm resilient, and also because I earned a title that I absolutely love, I stand back up. That's right. That Marine comes up and says, you're not a quitter. And yeah, it hurts, and you're going to have to, tuck your tail, but you got to get back up. Like my dad always said, get back up on that horse, kick your spurs in, and keep on, skedaddling. I don't know. It sounds really...
Yeah, no.
For an urban kid, I sound really bumpkin-y right there. Sorry.
But you know what, Eric? Though, if you took, I've got some great friends in Miami. I belong to this group that's called Tiger 21, and it's a group of individuals that have all done extremely well. And if you lined 25 of us up and said, what talk to me about adversity, everyone would say, look, we've had numerous fails in our life, but we would tell you all of our life experience, all of our life lessons, every single one of them came at times of adversity. Anyone can run a company with the wind at your back. It looks easy. I tell you what, the trials and tribulations, when you're bucking a headwind and you're stretching cash and you're stretching human resources and human capital, when you can overcome that kind of adversity and still maintain and then fight your way out of it and grow a thriving company, those are the battle wounds those are the scars that you're proud of. Yep. Getting through those moments, and every one of us have them, countless of them.
Oh yeah, I think what people miss when they talk about entrepreneurship, and you clearly, number one, you give back. I mean, you are one of those folks that has made it to the top, and you make sure that you give back to as many entrepreneurs, to everything that you invest in. You give back. It's a large part of what you do. And I think that speaks volumes, because there's so many of us, like my belief, I always treat a struggle like taking a Zodiac or a rubber boat out of a tide, right? To run it from the beach, to get through those. Yeah. And I know you're around Navy SEALs, so you know what I'm talking about. We've done the same thing in the Corps. Taking a Zod through a wave pattern is probably one of the biggest butt-kicking exercises in your life. And people, they don't believe me. And then I'm like, go do it, because it's amazing how a wave will swamp you and just knock you on your butt and own you. The ocean she's powerful. But you give back. So what drives you to do that? What part of you? I mean, you could be one of those guys that, hey, you got it good. You've got the good life. You've got money in the bank. You own businesses. But you give back, where so many people don't. They're like, I made it and I'm keeping it. It's mine. Look at all my cars. I'm going to go lean on a Lamborghini. Here I'm laying on my private. Hey, you said that you flew Delta. So clearly you're not one of those guys that's like, oh, I'm above it. I need to fly in a private plane, you know.
Yeah. Well, I do. You know what, Eric? I do. I do have a Falcon 50. I have a Falcon 50 and Ferrari. I mean, I've got all the shit, right? But I'm practical.
Yeah.
I'm practical. I mean, so I don't. If it's just me flying, I won't take my jet to go to Boston and back. It was easy, but I do take it. So, but for me, I started with nothing. Right? I mean, literally, as we spoke about before we started the show, if you'd met me 32 years ago, I would have been giving you a towel and a locker key. My first job, I was working for $16,000 a year. So I'm not a trust fund baby. My dad said, hey, look, even with college, my dad said, go get a student loan. I mean, that's where I grew up. I was youngest of 7 kids with an identical twin. So for me, what am I thankful for? I'm thankful that my dad is a man's man. And he's, you know, my dad's a rancher today out in South Dakota. He's 89 years old. He's a freaking stud. And he's just, you know, he just spits fire, right? And he's kind of like a modern day, like a Clint Eastwood, right?
I love it.
So I appreciate that. And that kept me grounded. So I try to stay humble. I still have my toys. You know what, I have a blessed life. So coming through all of it, when I had these moments, when I was in my office every day, I had a picture of me in a 2-room schoolhouse where it was myself, 2 of my brothers, and across the hall was my other brother and 3 sisters. So I grew up in a 2-room schoolhouse. How in the hell did I get from that? I quit college my junior year. I went from 2-room schoolhouse to quitting college to selling companies, having a net worth north of $100 million, having a private jet, a penthouse in Miami. I'm sitting in a $10 million lake home in Minnesota. How in the fuck did I do that, right? And so for me, I'm that guy that when I get on my plane, I've got jeans and a baseball cap on, okay? Mm-hmm. When I'm in my Ferrari, I roll just how I want to roll, right? So I don't have to prove myself to anyone, but what matters to me is how I show up every day. Yep. How do I want to live? So if I can help an entrepreneur chart a cleaner path to financial freedom, I'm there. You know, one of the things that I love to do, Eric, and you'd love this too, guy, just from the bit that I know you. When I get back home to Miami, I hop on my bike with the little trailer I bought on Amazon, and I've worked out a deal with some of the local bakeries in my neighborhood, and I get donuts and cupcakes and cookies. And I get that and a couple cases of water, and I go into the hood of Miami, right? And I got jeans on and a T-shirt. They have no idea who I am, nor should they. But I sit there and I make friends, right? Mm-hmm. I roll up on these people. I sit down and I talk to them, and I make friends and I give them hope. And now these guys, they know me by name when I'm there. I do it every week, right? So that there's not a moment that I haven't done that, Eric, that when I'm driving home, that I don't say to myself, man, that was just, I say, I thank God for having the ability to do that. And it's so rewarding for me. So I never lose sight of who I am or where I came from. That for me matters to me.
Yeah. Well, that's what they say an example of a true leader is you never forget where you come from. You always got to be looking over your shoulder and remembering where you come from, because it does humble you. I mean, it is something, you're talking about something at a much greater level than I can comprehend. But at my level, you know, I've been attacked. I know my friends who've been attacked for success, right? It's amazing how people hate you as you grow in success. And it's like, look, we didn't get here overnight. I always tell people 7-year overnight success is my story, and I'm sticking to it. But I've had struggles. I have no problem admitting at one point in my life, we lived with my in-laws in their living room and put curtains up because I was just not doing a good job at my job, and I had to figure things out. I mean, one of my side hustle jobs was working as a longshoreman at Local 54 on the most inland port you could find in California. That was a whole new world for me, coming from the Marine Corps, coming from, you know, attempting law enforcement, to now I'm on a ship with guys who spent time in prison, and when they're like, well, where have you been? And they're like, I was at Pelican Bay for my 20s. I'm like, holy crap. I watched, you know, they didn't like my joke, nor did they find humor in it when I'm like, hey, I watched Locked Up on MSNBC. They didn't think that was funny. I thought it was hilarious. And they're like, only a Marine would say that. And I'm like, probably, because most people would be afraid to talk to somebody who was in Pelican Bay and wasn't a prison guard. But I think that's important that you cover that, because we're always humble. I think we're grounded. And I don't know why success automatically thinks we're all trust fund babies, because a lot of us aren't. I mean, even the great, we've talked about Gary Gary Vee's not a trust fund kid either. I mean, he built a business. So
Self-made guy, built it with his two hands.
yeah.
And don't get me wrong, for me, I built some great companies, but I've had the ability of surrounding myself with some great people, and that is one thing I think one of my gifts is that I'm able to find the right talent. And even when I built Snap Fitness, I pulled a guy that was working at a marina. He ran the marina, the place where my lake home is, where I would go get gas every day. And the guy, what was he? Former SEAL, running the dock. He had the respect of everyone on the dock. His attention to detail, he was right on point. And when I approached him, I said, "Look, I'm not here to steal you from your job, but if you ever wake up one day and you're not completely fired up about what you're doing here, I'd love to have you work with me."
I love that you tell that story, because there's so many of the there is a large veteran-owned brand that has a COO right now, and I'm not going to name them just because I'm not that guy. But their story is he started as number one, he served as a Marine, amazing combat vet. He was in back folding T-shirts for this veteran-owned T-shirt company. He's now the COO of the company because his hard work and what he did, he took advantage of an opportunity and worked hard. Nothing was just handed to him. Now he's able to provide his family a great life. And this is a guy who has a documentary on Amazon where he wears a bent bullet all around his neck on a dog tag. And that bullet is from a very dark day in his life. His wife left him, basically, sounds like a bad country song, but he took a 9mm, put a round home, chambered around, and put it in his mouth and had a misfire. And that's why he's still here. And he never forgets. I have goosebumps. I love telling those stories.
That's heavy.
Sorry,
that's heavy stuff.
It's deep, but those are the stories that entrepreneurs need to hear. That this journey isn't overnight. You can't snap your fingers. I know you could turn on Facebook. You and I both are on social media. And you see these get-rich-quick guys. They take a couple pictures with some celebs, and they're like, hey, you could do this. Me being in media, it drives me bananas. I could never do an ad like, I'll guarantee you TV tomorrow. I'm like, probably not true. But, if you lean on a Lamborghini, you can have nice things. We have plenty of nice things. I mean, I'm struggling through not having one of my favorite things, which is being able to go watch basketball. I'm a diehard Portland Trailblazer fan. And I'm like, I really want to go to a basketball game and sit in my nice seats that I work my butt off to sit there. And I miss it. And
I hear you.
It's like now
baseball, pick your sport. I mean,
those
poor souls are trying to finish the season. It's just a push for those guys.
It's horrible.
Playing with no fans. It's this whole year is just.
I mean, true story. I have a buddy of mine, a client who works. He is a goalie in Major League Soccer. They have been there. Mind you, his child was born right after COVID struck and the season was suspended for Major League Soccer. His baby was born. He's now stuck in Orlando since late July or late June. They left. Major League Soccer was the first to the bubble. And he hasn't been able to come home. And I feel awful for him because he's torn, right? All these guys are torn. They're like, well, if we don't win in the semifinals, I get to go home and we're going on vacation. I can't, and so it's heartbreaking because these guys are giving up. I mean, obviously this is their job, and I think people forget that. They're like, oh, they're just millionaires with money, and it's like they're still dads. Right. They still have kids, and most of them. I mean, Dame Lillard is probably one of my favorite humans. He's like always talking about his baby and missing his son. I mean, it's always part of his social. So I really think people forget that.
These guys have families. Yeah. You got it. They got another life beyond sports. I get it.
It's not just, people just, I don't know. I could go on a rant about sports for a long time, but that's key. And so I'm happy that you joined us today because I think we've discussed a lot of amazing, I'd love to have you back on. I could talk to you forever.
Love to do it. Anytime.
You are a very fun entrepreneur to talk to. So before we go, we're actually going to put all of your links to social. But if folks want to find out more about you and what they do, where do you suggest they go find out more?
I make it really easy. Just go to my Instagram handle, which is Peter_Taunton, TAUNTON. And that's typically the stuff that I post. It's on my wall. It's all either motivational or inspirational. But my daily stories, if I'm posting something on my story, it's really me living my life. And that's an interesting perspective for a lot of people on how do I roll? How do I roll through a day? I'm just a normal guy. I happen to have I've got the financial freedom part of it, but I haven't lost sight of who I am, right? And that's a big part. I do these things, and I try to mentor where I can, but how I roll when no one's watching, I think is important.
Love it. So, Peter, I want to thank you so much on behalf of everybody here at To The Point. I want to thank you for taking the time out today to join us from your what looks like a very beautiful lake home. And telling us about your journey, because I think it's key for entrepreneurs now. Granted, even before COVID, you should find successful entrepreneurs and be like, okay, that is another amazing story that's out there. But I think people need these to learn that they can make it through it, that we'll all have tough times. This pandemic is going to pass. I keep telling people that it's going to pass. We will get back to business as normal as soon as we possibly can. And I know what makes it worse is it's an election year, and that always adds to any of the stress. They don't understand what they do to the business world when they do all this.
How about it, man? Well, I think, inevitably after November, things are going to quiet down.
Of course.
So much of this is politically driven. It's crazy.
It's all magic, right? I said that joke to somebody. I said, November, we're going to be fine. Like November 4th, shockingly.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you can go to NFL games.
More suddenly the truth is going to come out on that. It's going to be just normal.
I had to laugh. I'll tell you this, Peter, before you go. My kids, we got their update for when they'll go back to school. And it's tragic because they don't get to go back. I mean, we're cool. We have that cool Labor Day schedule, so we don't go back till after Labor Day anyway. We're traditional, which I love. But our kids don't go back until after November 13th. And then my wife and I were just like, isn't that just kind of ironic? So 1 week after the election, we could go back to school. I'm like, you're not making my conspiracy theory. I don't want to put the tinfoil on my head, but you're making it easy.
There's a lot out there. Oh. That's a whole other show right there.
Oh, that is. We could digress on that one. But anyways, Peter, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. You're always welcome back. And everyone else, stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages. Thank you for watching today's show. As always, if you'd like to be a guest or you know somebody that we should have on our show as a guest, feel free to email us at hello@tothepointtv.com. We look forward to hearing from you. And you can also email us if you have a complaint, want to give us kudos, high fives, or if you have an additional question for a guest. Feel free to email us again at hello@tothepointtv.com. Our Twitter is up and running, and it's for social good. Not yelling and screaming political or anything else crazy on our Twitter. So follow us on Twitter at @ToThePointTV, and we'll tweet back at you. And as always, we want you to check out our IG. We love Instagram. Our Instagram stories are up, they're buzzing, and they're meant for you. We love our fans and followers, and we want you to know who our guests are coming on, and we want you to engage with us, and we want to engage with you. So make sure you're following us at Instagram at @ToThePointTV. Now, we love you on Facebook, and we want to make sure, because you're probably watching this on Facebook, you're like, why would you already follow us? But tell a friend that they can come follow our show and never miss a live episode. As you know, here on Facebook, make sure you head, if you're not on Facebook watching this, then it's different, but our Facebook is To The Point with Eric Mitchell. So make sure you follow us there so you always get notified when our show goes live at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Now, for the folks over on YouTube. Now, YouTube, we love our YouTube, and our channel is growing, and we love you there. Now, if you missed the live show at 12 p.m. Eastern, you can catch the premiere, which is re-recorded. The premiere on YouTube goes down every day at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and simply just go do that. So remember, with YouTube, what we want you to do is smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and flick that bell. That's right, hit the bell. Give that bell some bell love, and that way you know when we're on air and you can catch our latest episode. Check out our playlist. All of them broken down by the day and the guest and show, so you can always stay up to date. Once again, on behalf of the entire team here at To The Point, we want to thank you for, again, tuning in and watching our show, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow on To The Point. As always, I am your host, Eric Mitchell. Be safe, be strong, be smart, and God bless America.
Let's get to the point with Eric Mitchell. Let's get to the point. Sit and enjoy. This is Eric Mitchell. He the host of the show. Get to the point. He is the voice. We needed this, something more. This is a daily show that's known for politics and the sports. Ain't no limit to whoever you may see at this point. Just to either tragic or it's happy. Eric would cover whatever's happening. Whether it be a gymnast, toe tapping, talking about nearly any athlete, not taking a back seat. You're never gonna get it past T. Everybody running from it, it's a stampede. But he's on it like this man who took that knee. Mr. Mitchell's way too crazy.